Hello, I'm James Blackman. I'm from Enterprise IoT Insights in RCL Wireless. I'm here at Mobile World Congress 2019 with Cameron Coursey from AT&T. Cameron, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, James.
A big theme of the show this year, Cameron, has been around simplicity and bringing greater simplicity to the IoT space. You've talked about that a lot. Can you give us a flavour of what the message is?
Absolutely. So as we have been working in this Internet of Things space for a few years now and have a lot of connections on our network already, what we've experienced is there are barriers to entry, right? There are walls that have made it harder for customers to implement Internet of Things. And what we've seen as we deploy what's called the mobile IoT technologies of LTE-M and eventually narrowband IoT, these two technologies are much simpler than the standard cellular technologies that have been deployed in the past. They were actually standardized that way to be simpler. There's less components in the devices, and so from that perspective, the devices can be simpler, but also there's complexity around, friction around getting devices certified that is dramatically decreased as we move into these mobile IoT technologies. And just the fact that they interoperate well and they're highly secure. These are also barriers, walls that have been built up that we can break down now with mobile IoT. So we think that the whole simplicity is accounted for by a lot of the things that we're doing right now.
And I mean, the process of this kind of breaking down of the walls, if you like, this making it more secure, better interoperability, this kind of stuff. I mean, that will reduce ultimately time to market and time to value, I guess.
That's exactly right, as well as just cost of the devices themselves. If we think about time to market and how we can reduce that with these new technologies, it takes less time in order to certify them because there's fewer tests. There's 700 or 800 less tests than what's called an LTE Category 1 device, which was the simplest device before this. And because there's fewer tests, that means it costs less to test a device, which should result in a lower cost of the end product, but also you get it done sooner. And so we have a program actually that we call no-touch certification in AT&T that has allowed us to reduce the time that we take to approve an IoT device down to a day or less. It's no touch because we don't even have to see the device ourselves. There's some tests that we have the device manufacturer run on it on their own, and we just look at the results and check it off if it meets the requirements that we have, and they're good then with their device.
And I mean, you have made a couple of announcements at this show,
yes.
or during the show, around this theme, essentially, which have brought this simplicity, this greater simplicity to the market. I wonder if you could say something firstly of the announcement around Notecard.
Sure. So Notecard is a product that Blues Wireless, which is a new company that was formed by Ray Ozzie, a former chief software architect of Microsoft, has formed. And the whole idea behind this is how can we make this mobile IoT device really simple for developers. So he's really implemented both LTE-M and narrowband IoT. It'll launch on our LTE-M network and move to narrowband IoT, and it will be able to be used globally as well. But really what he's created here is an ability for a developer to very, very simply take this system on module and start using it from day one. It will already be activated, and it will have data included in it, so they don't have to pay a cellular bill, right? It just works. So think of what used to be the domain of only some technology like Wi-Fi. Now these mobile IoT technologies can be integrated into devices with the simplicity that Wi-Fi could. And you add the layer of security that cellular can provide without having to worry about entering a password, an SSID of a Wi-Fi network, then we believe that that extra security of cellular will also be very beneficial for these use cases.
Right. And And we caught up with Vodafone earlier, you know,
Right.
and they were talking about the deal they have with you around the car market
Right.
and how you're making it simpler essentially for the OEMs. Can you talk about that and what's
Sure.
happening there and what that means?
So when we move into the automotive space, now we're talking about much more complex
Yes,
products,
yes.
obviously. These are devices that are typically called telematics control units, TCUs. They usually use technologies like 4G LTE, try to do very high speed because you're doing firmware updates or Wi-Fi hotspots or infotainment in a vehicle, so they're much more complex devices. Well, if an auto manufacturer is bringing vehicles to different markets around the world, today they have to get that TCU certified through each of the operators. And that, again, adds to the cost and the complexity and the time. One of the things that we're working with Vodafone in this agreement is how can we make that device certification simpler so they don't have to do exactly the same, they don't have to duplicate their effort between our two companies.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one big area that we think is going to help the automotive industry to simplify the complexity. And then another area is if they have to use different operators around the world and figure out how to work with them on an operational level, if there's any issues that come about and it's different, that is complexity. They don't want to have to, an auto manufacturer doesn't want to have to do that. They want to sell cars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful cars, good cars. And we're trying to simplify the whole operational process around that with Vodafone so that when an automaker is working with both of us, there's visibility into the networks that we have, the Vodafone network and Vodafone onto our network, that will help to troubleshoot problems faster, solve problems much simpler for them.
And what's your sense of the market now? I mean, it seems there is progress being made. This has been a complaint that the IoT market is too fragmented.
Right.
It's very hard to do business. Do you feel things are moving at last? Do you feel that this show has seen that?
I've really seen that. I've seen where this mobile IoT technology and then IoT in general, people have grasped the barriers, the friction that is out there, and they're identifying solutions for it. You know, we're all working together to figure out how to make it simpler going forward. Yes.
Cameron, look, thanks for joining us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James.